Hi, my name is Mark Clark. I'm with the University of Florida, and I'm also an affiliate faculty with Florida Sea Grant. We're talking about panels, and so the way the JRCSA material works is after you've immersed it in the CSA material, then you have to have a form to lay it over, and we've shown you how to build prisms and the form associated with that. Now we have to show you how to build a form for the panels. Now there's lots of different configurations that this could take. We've ended up using a corrugated kind of theme where the jute is not just flat but essentially rolling over the top of a form, and that actually creates quite a bit of rigidity, at least in this direction. So this direction is still a little bit flexible, but this direction is really strong. But this also creates a much larger surface area for oysters and other epifauna to attach to. And the jute material that's laid out is 96 inches, just like you'd have for a reef prism. But as a result of the corrugations, that 96 inches all compresses down to be within a 4-foot length. And so we end up starting off with a piece of plywood that's 4 feet by 4 feet. And then I used a 4-inch PVC drainage pipe, cut those in half, and then mounted those on a piece of 3/4 inch wood, and then spaced them equidistant with a 2-inch spacing in between. And as a result, if you did the math, you end up with 8 ridges, and you have 7 valleys in between, and then there's a little bit of a buffer lip on the outside. We're going to put this in a drawing and the actual measurements and all, but you get the general idea that we're using PVC to create the mold or the form, and then setting that on top of some pieces of wood to give us our overall shape. Now, if you wanted to, you could either make a lot of these forms to conduct all of your reef panel formation, or what we decided to do is use the original form, or kind of the master form, if you will, and then instead of using the jute we typically use, which is a really coarse woven jute, we're now using jute in the form of burlap, which is a much finer weave. You're probably much more familiar with this material, but basically it's relatively thin. But we can mix the JRCSA material with this burlap, just like we do the other material, and then lay it over the top of this form to create a form. And that's what we have here. So this form is created by laying this burlap material with the JRCSA over here, and now it becomes the form that we then use. And we now have 8 of these forms that we can use to replicate much more rapidly the reef panels when we get into production. Now, this material is actually pretty stiff. It's dense, but it would have to go and be supported by a form underneath. And you see it's just a kind of a framework here. But that material, this material is this then just screwed down on top here. Now there's a little bit of a trick when you cast this material on this form, where you lay this out on a sheet of plastic and then you have another sheet of plastic over the top. So you kind of have a plastic sandwich pieces of bread on top with the JRCSA and the burlap in the middle, and then you drag that over the top and form it like you're going to see us do in a little bit with a regular reef panel. But either way, here's a form. You can either make it this way for every single time, or you can use burlap, similar to the JRCSA. We use otherwise form it around the master form to create forms, and then use this as your form for the actual panel. That's what you're going to see us do next.